Let's talk.
Giles Brown.
The Isle of Man TT, the illustrated history of the world's greatest motorcycle road race, is a new book. It is an exhaustive, it is a brilliantly illustrated, rather well-written book, and it's big, people. Listen to this. That's how big it is. You can hear it when it hits the desk. I'm delighted to say that here to tell me a little more about the greatest road race in the world is the author of Isle of Man TT, Phil Wain. Phil, morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
For those who don't know, I mean, the Isle of Man TT, it is, you describe it brilliantly in the book. It's like the Mount Everest of road racing. I mean, it really is. It's like, why do people do it? Because it's there.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, it's the oldest, not just the oldest motorbike race in the world. It's the oldest motorsport event in the world, older than Monaco Grand Prix, Le Mans 24 Hour, Indy 500. So that's, and its standalone makes the history more than anything else as well. So yeah, and it's just unique. 37.75 mile course. It wouldn't happen today. A course of that length being allowed to start, but 37.75 miles, hills, roads, villages, towns, you name it. The Isle of Man TT course incorporates. So it is very unique, and yeah,
potholes, manhole covers, telegraph poles, buildings either side, and then whipping up to, the top of the mountain. And so you go from this enclosed urban street racing environment to the wilds where the bikes really open up to ridiculous speed. Agos leap. I mean, these are things that are, if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, just go onto any sort of YouTube and you'll see what I'm talking about. But it is a real sweep of scenery. And it really does. You have to have a certain mindset, Phil, surely, to get involved with the modern TT.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's kind of almost 3 or 4 courses in one, really, with the various topography that it involves and stuff. So it's very much a unique breed of rider that wants to race there. And that is the key, that the riders want to race there. No one's making them race there. It is what they want to do. Like you said, it's their Everest. It's their personal challenge, whether it's someone going for a race win, someone going for a personal best. All the riders have got their own little challenges and achievements that they want to attain. And it is just their goal in life to be there and race there. And
of course, most of us will sort of know, because of MotoGP, I'm sitting in Spain, MotoGP is massive. We don't have sort of street racing, don't have road racing, so much in Spain. It all tends to be circuit racing. And if with circuit racing, as we've seen, the huge crash for Alex Marquez over the weekend, which thankfully both riders are on the way to recovery. But if you come off your bike at the Circuito de Catalunya or another circuit on the MotoGP thing, there are run-off areas, there are gravel traps, there are marshals and medical teams waiting everywhere for you. With road racing, this is not applicable, is it? Because if you come off on a TT, on a road circuit, be it on the Isle of Man or in the Baltic states or wherever, there is, should we call it street furniture that you can run into, to put it mildly?
Yeah, that's the phrase that we use in road racing, furniture. I mean, that is the reality of road racing. If you come off, and because of the speeds that you're doing, the chances are you're going to hit something hard. I mean, when it comes to the TT, what I can say is that whilst you'll never make road racing safe, obviously, and stuff, but the TT organisation are doing everything they possibly can to make it as safe as it can. So there is air fencing at various corners. There are marshals at every corners. There are medics of the highest order. I mean, the chief medical officer at the TT was the medical officer on the London 7/7 bombings in July 2005. Yeah. So from an expertise and knowledge point of view, and even riders now, sports science is brought into it. So all, nutrition, hydration, all that kind of thing. The organisers are very involved with the riders to make sure they're all as fit as possible. Because one of the main reasons for accidents, certainly in years gone by, was towards the end of a race when like concentration comes to play, because the TT is as much mental as it is physical in terms of on the human body. But that the concentration factor came from fatigue.
Yeah.
So by ensuring the riders are as fit as possible, and like I say, the nutrition, the hydration, this year we've got rest days built in. Again, all these kinds of factors to help them and assist them. But you will never get away from the fact that obviously the TT is inherently dangerous, as are all road races. You know, there's Macau Grand Prix where both bikes and cars go. You'll never make it safe, but that is part of the challenge as well. The buzz and the adrenaline and the dangers is also kind of what makes the TT what it is. No one wants to see accidents, not at all. And obviously the riders don't want to, riders religiously learn the course before they, some riders, you could put a 10 pp down on the course and they'll go over that 10 pp every lap because they know it off the back of their hand, which is quite remarkable given the length of the course, And
the other thing, what's your relationship with the TT? I mean, why did you think that you should write this book? I mean, have you, do you go every year? Are you a TT journalist? What's your background, Phil?
So I first went in 1978 at the ripe old age of 3. My dad first went in 1962, never missed an event until 2000 and did 1962 through to 2006. It is our family, motorbike racing is our family sport. Right. Not just the TT. We covered, as soon as mum and dad, some of the listeners might not know these circuits, but in the UK they're big circuits: Brands Hatch, Donington Park, Silverstone, Alton Park,
Mallory.
We went to all of them, Mallory Park, all the British Championship stuff, and the TT formed a part of our year. So come the TT, it was our family holiday. As we got older, it wasn't so much the family holiday, but we still went. My mum, my dad's sadly no longer with us, but my mum still goes.
Yeah.
The road motorcycle racing is our passion. Like you mentioned MotoGP earlier.
Yeah.
We're into MotoGP, World Superbikes, British Superbikes, the TT, all of it. So like I say, my first year at the TT was 1978. I did miss a couple of years due to GCSEs and A-level exams.
For goodness sake.
I know.
Hey, what's going on here?
Get in the way of everything.
Couldn't you take your textbooks with you and just sit on the outside of the circuit and crib?
And then in 2002, I started writing just in a voluntary capacity for a website. And then from the back of there, my journalist career has just snowballed. So it led from magazines, saw my writing, and I got involved in magazines covering the TT and the British Superbikes. That led into me working for riders and teams, doing PR for them. So John McGuinness being an example. John wrote the foreword. I've done John's personal PR for 20 years. I did Guy Martin's press for 8 years. And then since 2007, I've been part of the official TT Motorsport team, writing all official race reports, practice reports, and press releases throughout the year.
So are you based on the island then, or are you based on the mainland?
No, I'm from the mainland. I'm actually 12 miles from Donington Park, basically the Midlands of the UK. So I'm not from the Isle of Man, but obviously going over every year and that. So.
Yeah, but that means that means you've got Donington, Mallory, and Alton Park within a 45-minute striking range, which is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, like.
If you want to get more extreme, you've got Darley Moor as well, which is only 18 miles away.
Here's the thing that you mentioned, that thing about being a family, because the other thing about the TT is that it is the closest you're going to get to an open air. It's a festival, basically, isn't it? It is because people go they don't go for race day. It's not like you go to the British MotoGP and it's kind of you can stretch it to a weekend, but it's going to cost you most of your arms and probably a couple of significant organs. But the TT, I mean, the Isle of Man shuts down. The government of the Manx government realises what an absolute integral part of culture this is now, and so basically it becomes this fantastic sort of family-friendly motorsport sort of festival for basically a week, 10 days.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the word festival is key there. For the whole 2 weeks, it is a festival. Some people will come for 2 days, some will go for the full 2 weeks, and whether it's family of 4, couple of 70-year-olds, group of lads, whatever it is, it's just a mixture of everyone. And to put it into context, the island population, I think, is about 85,000. And for the 2 weeks, the TT gets an additional 55,000 visitors. So the island is completely taken over. And the islanders, by and large, small minority not so, but by and large, the islanders just embrace it as well. Like you'll see, it is a complete community. Like people come together from all walks of life, from all four corners of the globe. There's no trouble. You'll see people, messing around with policemen, getting pictures with policemen and all this sort of thing, which you wouldn't get on the mainland and stuff. Say like using football as an analogy and comparison and that, So yeah, it is a complete festival. There'll be people who go to the TT as much for the festival as they do for the racing, just for the event and the atmosphere to soak up and stuff. And even on race days, you could probably walk around Douglas, the capital, and still see loads of people who aren't even watching the racing, but they come to life at night. And so
the other thing I think is really, because we could spend like literally 3 hours. I could spend with you 3 hours talking about this, but it goes from, because there are a lot of TTs, in the 30s and 40s and 50s, and then they get a lot of road racing gets especially for cars, gets sort of taken off the roads because it's too dangerous. People are getting killed because of the cars. There's no safety protections, the whole thing. But the TT on the Isle of Man TT keeps going. It's never kind of really been a car race, has it? So and It during the sort of the 50s and the 60s and up until the early 70s, it's part of what is then, it would now be called MotoGP, but at the time it's the 500cc, it's part of the championship.
Yeah.
So you've got Agostini, the great Ago,
yeah.
You've got Phil Reed, you've got Hailwood, you've got Jeff Duke, you've got Surtees. I mean, these are huge names in motorsport racing there.
Yeah, absolute motorcycling greats, basically. Yeah. So yeah, from 1949 to 1976, the TT was the British round of the World Championship. The TT actually hosted the first ever round of the World Championship in So MotoGP, as we know it today, started at the TT. So when it was 75 years of MotoGP a couple of years ago in 2024, they acknowledged the TT in their coverage, and stuff like that. So just going back to what you said there, great. Coming back to my family, I'm named after Phil Reed, so that's kind of shows our family involvement in sport and how much we enjoy the sport and stuff. So, but yeah, like I say, every great from that era, from the 1940s to the 1970s, contested the TT because it was part of the World Championship. It was only, as you said, as it moved into the 70s, because there was a lot of road racing in mainland Europe then as well. Even in Spain, Montjuic Park hosted the Spanish
incredibly
round.
Dangerous circuit.
Exactly, yeah. So
circuit, yeah.
Montjuic in Spain or Sachsenring in Germany, all these various places that held road racing. Imatra in Finland, Brno in Czech Republic.
Yeah.
So gradually, as the 70s moved into the 70s, that was when the transition started from roads to short circuits. Because
all sorts of motorsport are getting quicker, and the aerodynamics are coming in, and these old circuits are far too. I'm just wondering, what somebody like Kenny Roberts or an Agostini must have thought the first time they looked at Iron Man and go, "What on earth are we? What is this?" Because was it 30 something miles, and and just for the listeners as well, they don't all go off at the same time. It's always been a timed event, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's always been a time trial. Yeah, it used to be in pairs. It's now, again, from a safety perspective, it's individual at 10-second intervals that they set off. So yeah, it is a time trial. In terms of what they thought of it, at the time, it was just a thing to be done. Yeah. Even for British riders into the 80s, you had to go to the TT to get a factory ride with one of the big teams. So in terms of Ago, he just embraced it, did his homework like all top professionals do. He was over in the winter before he made his debut, learning the course, just going round and round and round. And, you could talk to Agostini today and he'll still speak fondly about the TT. Yes, he recognises the danger element of it, but in terms of the satisfaction, and this is why people do the TT, I think, from a rider perspective, the dangers are there, but the satisfaction they get out of racing there and performing there outweighs those dangers. I remember a few years ago, the rider who'd come 45th was being interviewed, and I've never heard so much joy and satisfaction in someone's voice. I've done a lot of things in my life which I've enjoyed, but not to the extent of how this this rider was describing his emotions, his feelings, and what he'd just done for the previous hour and a half. You know?
It's the ultimate. And you look at, I mean, just looking at the names, I said Surtees, Hayward, Agostini, Phil Reed. Mick Grant, I mean, great. I mean, proper racers. Mick Grant, Rutter, Hislop, Fogarty.
But I was just about to say Fogarty as an example. The bigger name people would know, and that again, Fogarty 4-times world superbike champion. Carl Fogarty would sit here now and tell you his 3 TT wins were more important than the world superbike championships and that. So especially the senior TT win.
Yeah, and also you think about Mick Grant, sort of big guy hustling these big bikes around the circuit. Foggy is like that as well, because that's World Superbikes. It's not sort of the lightweight MotoGPs. Somebody like a Marc Marquez would look at the TT and go, oh, for goodness sake. But it's always had this, because maybe it's the geography of the Isle of Man, but there's always been a really strong Irish contingent. And, Dunlop is a name that, I mean, Joey Dunlop, doesn't his bike famously sink one year because they go over on a very small boat to the TT?
Yeah, went over in a fishing boat. Yeah, that was how their mode of transport every year. And the boat went down one year, so all the ballocks on the boat sunk. So, yeah, that was quite dramatic, shall we say. But, yeah, obviously the Dunlop name is probably the name most synonymous with the TT. The one thing probably that has shifted slightly over the years is, and this is more about what's happening in Ireland as opposed to what's happening in the Isle of Man, but the Irish racers used to dominate the TT.
Yeah.
Now, if you took Michael Dunlop away from the equation, most of the front runners now at the TT are either... most of them have come from short circuit backgrounds, to be fair. I mean, you've got someone like Josh Brooks, for example, who's from Australia, double British Superbike champion. Peter Hickman, British Superbike race winner, 14 times TT winner now. So that transition, and with Irish road racing suffering a bit of a decline, there's not as many Irish riders. It is literally the Dunlop name flying the flag for Northern Ireland now and that. So,
It's interesting you mentioned superbikes again, because superbikes are a different proposition from the MotoGP bikes. So maybe a superbike rider is more physically able to compete because it's the concentration, because they're a bit heavier to haul around a short circuit rather than the MotoGP racer would have, where they weigh about as much as my elbow basically.
Yeah, a diminutive rider is always going to struggle a bit on the superbikes at the TT, by and large anyway. I mean, there'll always be an exception to the rule, because most riders tend to be around that kind of 5'9", 5'10". You don't get many riders over 6 foot, because on short circuits, being over 6 foot is a disadvantage. Peter Hickman's probably an exception to that, because he can do both, but his size and weight is definitely an advantage at the TT, no shadow of a doubt.
And one of the things is, because I say this to people, because I've been to a few meetings in Batam. I said my dad was a racing driver, so I've been to a few meetings, and one of the things that you never get, even at a circuit, is the speed. I went to see. I remember going to Jerez. I've been several times, and the first time I went to Jerez, and Kenny Roberts Jr. was there, and Seti Hibernau, and I thought they're going to crash, and of course they don't. They manage to haul it around the corner. God only knows how. And at the TT, take that and multiply it by 100,000. Because you literally, you go on the YouTube, people, you'll see memes of people sitting having a cup of tea, and there's a blur of light, and that's a Dunlop going by ridiculous, stupid miles an hour, isn't it? I mean, the speed they're carrying when you actually see it in the flesh, and going over Aggo Lips is this famous bit where they're off the ground on a road circuit, Phil, for goodness sake. I mean, how on earth are they doing this?
I think, like you say, until you see something for real, you'll never get the realisation of the actual speed. I think that was coming back to Alex Marquez. That was a prime example there. You see them going along in a straight line and it looks perfectly normal. It's only when an accident happens or something that you realise how quick they're going. So with the TT as well, with the speed they're going, and also the topography of the course, you mentioned Aggo's Leap there. Bray Hill on TV doesn't look particularly steep, but when you get there, it is like almost vertical drop.
Yeah.
So there's so much to contend with and so much to go on. But again, a lot of it comes down to the riders. Like I say, we call it doing the homework. And again, coming back to the safety side of things now, newcomers are like years ago, a newcomer could just rock up and first time he'd see the TT course would be the first lap of practice, which is just crazy when you look back. Whereas now we've got rider liaison officers who will bring the riders over, they'll do laps with them, they'll give them onboard DVDs. The riders themselves go over and study the course and learn the course. So they know where the bumps are, they know where the jumps are, they know what to expect, how the bike's going to behave, albeit at 180 mile an hour plus in places and stuff. So
I mean, nothing. And again, it's because we don't get that. But you set off and you set off from from the middle of town, as it were, and then there is you just drop, doesn't it? It just goes straight down, which again looks like nothing. No warm-up lap, nothing like that. It's just literally a tap on the shoulder and away you go kind of thing. So, yeah. What's it like? I mean, for the riders, when they get up to the top and they're, they're going over those, up the mountain. I mean, the TV, there's almost something on camera, isn't there? Somebody following them, that'll be on a drone, used to be in a helicopter. But it looks incredibly dramatic because it's just basically the rider on his own, hopefully, if he's having a good lap. And there's nothing but windswept. And is that where they can really kind of open it up as well? Because it's not packed, on each side of the road.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange on the mountain because some riders will say they feel more comfortable up there because it is more open. There's the trees and houses. There's obviously none of those, so they haven't got that. They're not closed in. There's not as many obstacles up there. But then the flip side of it is it looks very similar. So in terms of reference points for braking markers, peel-in points, all that kind of thing isn't quite there. So traditionally riders from a short circuit background always do well over the mountain. They're quicker over the mountain they are through the houses and trees and stuff like that. So, but like I say, there is a bit of a trade-off with, like I say, looking the same and braking markers and stuff.
What do the riders describe it like, going through the town section? I mean, it must be an overload because it's a blur, hopefully, but they're dialed in. But still, you've got the noise bouncing off houses, and there's things, flashes of lights, and people everywhere. I mean, it must be like an overload for the senses, Phil.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think they see things in a different way to what we do. It's like, they've got far better reaction times than the likes of me and you. It's like, say, you watch like a Formula One car Grand Prix, for example, and the reaction time when the lights go from red to green. And the TT riders are similar in that sense, and their reaction times are so much quicker than anyone else's. They're seeing and adjusting to things before they even happen and stuff. So in terms of them going between the houses and stuff is just, daft as it sounds, it's just second nature to them. They almost don't think about what they're going through. And that, yes, of course, they do in their first year and their first laps. And I mean, again, you interview a newcomer after they've done their first lap, they can barely talk because it's like, how is this legal? Can't believe I've just done this. It's just amazing. And then they start building up the speed, and then obviously they encounter more challenge. Quicker they go, more challenges you encounter and stuff. But I remember one rider retiring, and he said, like, going between Michael, which is a village where they're doing like 150 mile an hour, where the noise is reverberating off the houses. He said, it used to be exhilarating. Now it's just boring because I've just done it so many times and stuff. So it's like, it's no longer the exhilaration it once was because it had become the norm rather than the exception.
And you think that's crazy? Sidecars. No, I mean, the most insane, and the most insane pilots in the world, riders, are not only is the sidecar, driver, but also the girl or boy hanging off the side, doing the Isle of Man TT. I mean, what that is, talk about the right stuff. I mean, that's just the wrong stuff in the right way, I suppose, Phil.
Yeah, I think when I say TT riders have got to be a special breed, I'd say sidecar passengers in particular have got to be even more of a special breed because the trust that the driver has in the passenger and the passenger has with the driver is just like through the roof. And that, and the passenger doesn't even look where he's going. Yeah, you can just tell from the gear changes what corner they're at and things like that. And they're 2 inches, 3 inches from the ground. From
a curbstone, yeah.
Yeah, and sidecars are on full throttle for something like 70% of the lap, which is like, I can see your face now.
No, that's insane.
So, so obviously the speeds are slower because it's carrying 2 people, but, you can, so many parts of the course, so you can go and, you don't have to be looking at it, but you can hear a bike change through the gears. That same spot, you don't hear the sidecar lift off the throttle or change gear at all, and that. So
Here's the thing. Do they still do that? So what they used to call it, Mad Monday, when like the public has that gone now?
Mad Sunday.
Mad Sunday.
They don't have that anymore. So they
thank goodness.
What they did, the mountain Mad Sunday used to be where the mountain section was one way only, and that was the only day it was one way only. Whereas now it's one way only all the time. From a safety point of view, is much better to have it like that, because the tendency was, and I'm not portioning blame in any shape or form, but a lot of accidents that used to happen were when it was overseas riders riding on the wrong side of the road, just that split second forgetting where they were and what was allowed and stuff. So having it one way for the entire fortnight now just eliminates any chance of like head-on collisions or anything like that.
It's interesting as well, because a lot of we have Jerez. I'm literally an hour and a half, depending on what I'm driving, to Jerez. And during the MotoGP weekend, they used to let riders into Jerez Central. And now you can't, if you're on a motorbike, you cannot drive into the city centre, because all sorts of shenanigans used to take place for a very good reason, because people were having such a lovely time and forgetting that they weren't perhaps the next Agostini or the next,
But I think that's the balance, though, because like Le Mans, using Le Mans as an example in MotoGP, they have very relatively low pricing, which means they get 300,000 people. They don't control, they are controlled to a certain extent, but they have the campsites where people can set fire to things and go crazy. So it's not controlled or anything. But that makes it a success. The minute you start controlling something and, preventing people from doing things, that's when it...
Oh, don't get me wrong. The campsites at Jerez are an absolute... It's a Fino fueled fiesta, mate, for Fino. But it's just actually going into the centre, because obviously the track is outside. Because people used to go... Because obviously Jerez isn't a big city. So you can get from the centre... You can get from the campsite into Jerez in about 5 minutes. But the problem was people would go out, have a few more sherbs and chaos. Anyway, that's enough about Jerez. What's the future for TT, and how much fun was this to write, Phil?
Future looks strong for the TT, without a shadow of a doubt. Like I say, visitor numbers are increasing year on year. Daft as it sounds, the COVID years actually helped the TT reset, rebuild, replan, because they'd never normally get the opportunity to analyse things in the depth that they have done. Obviously, this year is the Hollywood film's going to be being filmed during TT week, and that's a Hollywood film being produced by Brad Pitt and Channing Tatum's production companies. There's a Netflix documentary. We're going to be very similar, well, not very similar in terms of content probably, but certainly similar in terms of exposure to like the Drive to Survive and the Formula One, the Golf and Tour de France ones, because it's being done by the same companies. So that's going to generate more interest, obviously. So and from a rider perspective, the entry is still strong. TV coverage is as strong as ever. So and from a writing perspective, I've done a few books in the past. The last book I did was on MotoGP in 2018. Yeah. Again, coffee table style book. But the TT was the one that I really wanted to do. Didn't think I'd get the opportunity. So to get the opportunity 7 years down the line it was just really, really interesting.
I'm holding the book now, and it's absolutely magnificent. Listeners, go on to our TRE bookstore, click on the front page, and it will be winging its way to you. The book is called Isle of Man TT. It's by Phil Wain. Phil, if people want to find you on the internet, where's the best place to find you?
Usual places, really. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X. Yeah. All primarily under Phil Wain, my name, but under Twitter, on X, I am under Crazy Legs. Crazy Legs 252, yeah. So.
Phil, thank you so much for your time today.